The shocking truth. What really happened to the Pomar family. In the heart of Argentina lies the quiet province of Buenos Aires, home to the Pomar family, a family whose story took a tragic turn and left an entire nation searching for answers. If you're captivated by real-life mysteries and compelling stories, don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Today, we dive into the heartbreaking disappearance of the Pomar family, a case that began as a routine road trip and spiraled into a 24-day search filled with unanswered questions and haunting revelations. Join us as we unravel the twists and turns of this unforgettable story. It was a calm Saturday evening when the Pomar family decided to embark on a seemingly ordinary road trip. Gabriela Pomar, her husband Fernando, and their two daughters, Candelaria and Pilar, were all packed and ready to visit family in Pergamino, a small city not far from their home in Buenos Aires, Argentina. The journey was familiar, a drive that should have taken only a few hours. Before leaving, they bid farewell to Gabriela's teenage son, Franco, who stayed behind to focus on studying for an important exam. The family drove off into the fading light of the evening, unaware that this trip would change their lives forever. By the following morning, unease began to settle in. The family had not arrived at their destination, and attempts to contact them went unanswered. Initially, relatives and friends hoped for a simple explanation, perhaps car trouble or a delay on the road. But as the hours dragged on, concern quickly turned into alarm. The Pomars had seemingly vanished without a trace. What began as a routine journey became a chilling mystery, one that left loved ones and authorities questioning every possibility. Could they have been victims of a tragic accident? Or had something more sinister occurred on that lonely stretch of road? Gabriela Villagran, the heart of the Pomar family, had always been a symbol of resilience. Born on April 6, 1974 in Pergamino, she was the daughter of Maria Cristina. Details about her father remain vague, but it was clear they shared a special bond. Gabriela had been his favorite, a light in his life even as he battled cancer in his early 50s. Despite his illness, her father's love and support left a lasting impression on her. Sadly, his health worsened just as Gabriela discovered she was pregnant with her first child. The news of the baby brought a glimmer of hope to the family, but her father passed away before he could meet his grandson, Franco. Franco's birth was a turning point for Gabriela. Becoming a mother helped her cope with the profound loss of her father. She poured her love and energy into raising her son, finding joy and purpose in motherhood. Over time, Gabriela and Franco's father decided to part ways amicably, maintaining a peaceful relationship for the sake of their child. Life moved forward, and in the early 2000s, Gabriela met Fernando Pomar, a chemical technician known for his quiet and steady demeanor. The two married and soon expanded their family with the births of Candelaria and Pilar. Fernando and Gabriela complemented each other in many ways. While Fernando was reserved and introverted, Gabriela's warm and outgoing personality made her the social anchor of the family. She was the type of person who could strike up a conversation with anyone, radiating positivity wherever she went. Together, they created a stable and loving environment for their children, filled with the usual challenges and joys of family life. Their shared dream was to provide a bright future for their kids, and trips like the one they planned to Pergamino were common, offering a chance to reconnect. However, in 2009, their sense of security was shaken when Fernando lost his job. This unexpected turn of events placed the family under significant financial pressure. They had to make tough decisions, including putting their home up for sale even as they continued making mortgage payments. Unwilling to let the situation defeat them, Fernando showed resourcefulness. He purchased a machine to manufacture plastic bags, which provided a temporary income to keep the family afloat. Though it wasn't a permanent solution, it was enough to help them get by while he searched for another job. A potential opportunity arose when Fernando was invited to interview for a position as a chemical technician at a renowned biofertilizer and agricultural insecticide company in Pergamino. The timing seemed perfect. Not only could this job help restore their financial stability, but it also aligned with plans for a family visit. Gabriela suggested they make the trip together, as it would allow them to visit her mother and reconnect with relatives in Pergamino. On Friday, November 13th, Gabriela informed her mother about the interview during a phone call. At first, She wasn't sure if she and the children would accompany Fernando or if he would make the trip alone with their 2 daughters. In the end, she decided they would all go together. By Saturday, November 14th, the family finalized their plans. Before setting out, they stopped to drop off Franco, Gabriella's teenage son from her first marriage, at a friend's house. At 13, Franco was focused on an important exam scheduled for Monday. 6 days after their disappearance, on November 20th, investigators finally uncovered the first lead. A toll booth camera captured an image of Fernando's car traveling on the route to Pergamino around 8 p.m. on November 14th, the night the family left home. Though the photograph was blurry and didn't clearly show Gabriella or the girls, it reignited hope and prompted intense scrutiny. Soon after, another toll booth image surfaced from 20 minutes earlier, providing more clarity. This time, all 4 family members could be identified inside the car. These images, however, were the last known sightings of the Pomar family together. As authorities worked to piece together the timeline, a witness claimed to have seen the family casually shopping at a mall in Pergamino 5 days after they were reported missing. This report caused a brief stir in the investigation, raising hopes that the family might still be alive. However, it was later discredited due to a lack of corroborating evidence. Another rumor suggested the family was traveling with a toy poodle, which further complicated the search efforts. This detail, too, was eventually dismissed by authorities as false. The conflicting accounts only deepened the mystery, leaving investigators and the public grasping for answers. The media coverage became relentless as days stretched into weeks without any significant progress. Speculations ran rampant, with every theory stirring public debate. One popular belief was that the family had fled the country, possibly to escape financial difficulties. This idea was quickly debunked. Gabriella and the girls had left their travel documents at home, and border alerts were issued just days after the disappearance. The chances of them crossing the border legally or unnoticed were slim. Investigators also verified that the family was current on their mortgage payments, further weakening the financial motive theory. Another line of speculation focused on the possibility of violence. Some theorized that Fernando might have harmed his family, either out of desperation or mental instability, before fleeing or taking his own life. Others suggested that an unknown individual with a personal grudge, such as an ex-partner, might have been involved. However, these theories failed to provide any solid leads. If such incidents had occurred, evidence like bodies or physical traces of violence would have likely been discovered during the extensive search efforts. The idea that the Pomars were being held against their will gained traction, but no demands or credible sightings supported this theory. As the 11th day of their disappearance approached, hope began to wane. The lack of concrete evidence frustrated investigators and left the family's loved ones in agonizing uncertainty. The case grew colder with each passing day, but the public's interest remained as intense as ever. With no resolution in sight, the Pomar family's vanishing became one of the most baffling mysteries in Argentina's history, leaving everyone wondering how an entire family could disappear so completely. As media speculation surged, the theories surrounding the Pomar family's disappearance grew increasingly outlandish. One particularly sensational claim suggested that Fernando might have had ties to the infamous Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. While this idea captured public attention, investigators found no evidence to substantiate it. Another plausible theory proposed that the family had fallen victim to a carjacking. During that time, such crimes were not uncommon in the region. If true, the attackers might have hidden the vehicle in a remote location while holding the family captive, or worse, harming them. Yet, despite the grim implications, no witnesses, ransom demands, or physical evidence supported this scenario, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The possibility of an accident was also considered in the early stages of the investigation. However, authorities dismissed it after thorough searches of the family's presumed route yielded no signs of a crash or any other incident. Helicopters and drones scoured the area from above, while teams on the ground carefully inspected roads, ditches, and even off-road terrain. Still, nothing was found. With no solid leads, the investigation narrowed to 2 primary theories. Either the family had voluntarily disappeared, perhaps to escape financial or personal troubles, or they had fallen victim to an involuntary disappearance, possibly due to foul play or unforeseen circumstances. Even the prosecutor leading the case speculated on the possibility of internal conflict. Reports emerged that Fernando owned a firearm which was missing from the family's home. This raised concerns about a potential domestic dispute that might have escalated tragically. To leave no stone unturned, the prosecutor ordered a review of all 911 calls made in the area around the time of the disappearance. Despite combing through hundreds of records, investigators found nothing of relevance. On November 24th, 12 days after the family vanished, law enforcement intensified their efforts, focusing on the Pomar home in Jose Marmol. Authorities hoped that searching the house and its contents might reveal valuable clues. The Pomar residence was searched a total of 4 times. Investigators seized computers, documents, and even children's drawings looking for any indication of family conflict, abuse, or clues about their plans. However, no evidence of discord or foul play was uncovered. Gabriela, Fernando, and the children appeared to lead a relatively peaceful life, further deepening the enigma of their disappearance. By now, the case had captured national attention. News outlets provided daily updates, and the entire country was gripped by the haunting mystery of the Pomar family's fate. On November 25th, the search efforts escalated dramatically. More than 150 police officers were deployed to scour both sides of the 30-mile route the family was believed to have taken. The operation was extensive, with officers on foot, vehicles, and even horseback combing through dense vegetation, riverbanks, and abandoned structures. During this search, investigators discovered the remains of a deceased dog, which was initially thought to belong to the Pomar family. Additionally, blood-stained clothing was found nearby, sparking a flurry of speculation. However, these findings were later determined to be unrelated to the case, leaving the mystery unsolved. A breakthrough finally came on November 27th when a bricklayer contacted emergency services. He reported that while traveling on a double-decker bus toward Pergamino on November 16th, he had noticed an overturned red car off the side of Route 31. At the time, he assumed it was an abandoned vehicle and didn't think much of it. His tip prompted immediate action from authorities, who redirected their search efforts to the location he described. For the first time in weeks, there was renewed hope of finding answers to the questions that had plagued investigators, the media, and the public alike. The bricklayer's account of seeing the red car was initially brushed off by authorities. While traveling toward Pergamino on November 16th, he had noticed an overturned vehicle off Route 31. At the time, it didn't strike him as unusual, so he paid it little mind. However, on his return journey 10 days later, the revelation that Gabriela may have endured such prolonged suffering without any aid enraged her family and the wider public. Many questioned how such negligence could have occurred in an investigation that involved thousands of officers and significant resources. Her family expressed deep frustration, arguing that if the search had been conducted properly, Gabriela might have been found in time to save her life. Autopsies of all family members confirmed that their injuries were consistent with a high-impact car accident. Importantly, there were no signs of external violence, ruling out foul play. The condition of the road where the crash occurred became a focal point of public and media scrutiny. The route was notorious for its poor maintenance, riddled with deep potholes and dangerous curves that posed significant risks to drivers. Residents of the area had long complained about the hazardous state of the road, but their warnings went unheeded. According to locals, numerous accidents had occurred on the same stretch in the past, with some even resulting in fatalities. Police records confirmed that just a few months before the Pomar tragedy, another crash at the same curve had claimed 3 lives. In the wake of the Pomar family's deaths, the government faced mounting criticism for its inaction. It wasn't until the widespread media attention and public outrage that officials finally took steps to address the dangerous conditions. Repairs to the road began shortly after the family was discovered, but for many, this was too little, too late. The tragedy underscored the systemic neglect of infrastructure in the Buenos Aires province, raising questions about the accountability of local authorities. On December 11, 2009, the Pomar family was laid to rest in a somber ceremony at a private cemetery in Pergamino. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered to say their final goodbyes, their grief palpable. The funeral was an emotional event, with attendees mourning not only the loss of 4 lives, but also the preventable circumstances that contributed to their deaths. The ceremony served as a painful reminder of the failures that had prolonged the mystery surrounding their disappearance and compounded the tragedy. Public anger over the mishandling of the case grew in the aftermath of the funeral. Many were outraged that it had taken 24 days to locate the crash site, which was along a route that had supposedly been searched thoroughly. Investigations into police conduct revealed significant lapses. 12 officers faced disciplinary measures, including those who dismissed the critical tip about the red car on November 27th. However, the consequences were minimal. 7 officers were cleared of any wrongdoing, while the remaining 5 received a 60-day suspension. Later, those involved admitted they lacked proper training for conducting searches of this magnitude, highlighting systemic shortcomings in the handling of such cases. The fallout from the Pomar tragedy didn't end with the discovery of the family's fate. Among the many controversies surrounding the investigation, 3 officers with the rank of lieutenant were brought to trial for falsifying reports. These officers claimed to have thoroughly inspected the curve where the accident occurred, but reported finding no evidence of a crash, no skid marks, no debris, no sign of the Pomar family. However, these assertions, Maria Cristina and Franco, Gabriella's surviving son, found solace in their shared grief, but rarely spoke about the tragedy. It was an unspoken agreement between them, a way to preserve what little peace they could find. In August 2020, almost a year after Maria Cristina's passing, a federal court finalized compensation for Franco. The court ruled that he was entitled to 70% of the damages, amounting to approximately $1,800 for the loss of his family. The remaining 30% of responsibility was attributed to Fernando, as one of the car's tires was found to be in poor condition, a factor that contributed to the crash. Additionally, none of the passengers had been wearing seatbelts, which tragically led to their ejection from the vehicle. The acknowledgement of shared responsibility further complicated the legacy of the case. While it shed light on some contributing factors, it failed to provide a sense of closure. Maria Cristina, before her death, had voiced her belief that the investigation had been marred by negligence and possibly even deliberate cover-ups. She speculated that political motives might have influenced the handling of the case, preventing a thorough examination of what truly happened. Her frustrations were echoed by many who followed the tragedy as unanswered questions continued to linger. Even in her final days, Maria Cristina clung to the hope that someone, someday, would come forward with the full truth. She longed for clarity not only for herself, but for the memory of her daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren. Though her battle with cancer ended in August 2020, her fight for justice and truth left an enduring legacy. The tragedy of the Pomar family remains a haunting reminder of systemic failures and the enduring quest for accountability in the face of profound loss. The tragic sight of the Pomar family's accident, marked by a grove of trees that inexplicably hid their car from search teams, remains a somber reminder of a preventable disaster. Today, 4 simple crosses stand there, a quiet tribute to lives lost too soon and a haunting symbol of institutional failure. The case, which gripped the nation for weeks, has since become a cautionary tale in Argentina. It epitomizes the devastating consequences of negligence, not just the poor condition of Route 31, but also the mismanagement and missteps in the investigation. Despite the swirling theories and media speculation, the truth was heartbreakingly straightforward. A family lost their lives due to an unsafe road and the systemic failures of those entrusted with their safety. For Franco, the sole survivor of his family, the pain lingers in deeply personal ways. As a teenager, he stayed with his father's relatives in Pergamino, shielded from much of the public attention. But the scars of that loss shaped his life in ways he couldn't escape. Even as he grew older and moved to Buenos Aires for his studies, he avoided Route 31 entirely. His family, too, had made efforts to steer him away from it, understanding the emotional toll it might take. When Franco eventually began driving himself, he continued this practice, choosing alternate paths to avoid the road that had claimed his mother and sisters. For him, Route 31 isn't just a geographical stretch. It's a painful memory etched into his life, a silent reminder of the day his world changed forever. The tragic disappearance of the Pomar family serves as a painful reminder of the dangerous consequences of neglect and the profound impact that poorly maintained infrastructure can have on innocent lives. It also highlights the flaws in the investigation process, where missed opportunities and errors delayed the closure families desperately need. Thank you for taking the time to learn about this heartbreaking story. Don't forget to subscribe for more gripping real-life tales and updates. If you found this story moving or insightful, please leave a comment, like the post, and share with others. Your support helps us continue to bring you these important stories. Stay informed, and we'll see you next time.